Salutations. In the last video we explored the nature of the nous, the first and principal emanation of the monad. Now we will move on to the second emanation, produced through the medium of the nous by the monad's continuous generative output. This emanation is the expression of the monad's boundless motive power, the energy that is the root of all change and motion, and of material reality as it manifests to the collective senses. Taken as a whole, this energetic principle was known to the Greek philosophers as Suka Cosmo, the spirit of the cosmos, but it is more often referred to in modern times by the Latin name Anima Mundi. You may recognise that term to be related to modern words like animate, meaning to move.
I'm animated. I'm alive. My heart's big. It's got hot blood going through it fast.
The philosophers considered this principle to be feminine in nature and associated it with various goddesses of nature and generation, including Cybele, Persephone, Gaia, Demeter, and Ceres, and it's not difficult to see why. Likewise, the Indians call this principle Shakti, which literally means energy, and worship her as the supreme goddess. According to Shakta Hindus, all other goddesses are parts or aspects of the ultimate Shakti. In Confucianism, this principle is called Dao Mu, and is depicted as the goddess consort or female aspect of Shang-Di, the feminine generative power of the monad. When talking about this dynamic power in the abstract or limited sense, rather than its infinite totality, we find reference to it not only in the advanced metaphysical paradigms of great civilizations, but in every single traditional worldview, including primitive tribal ones. Not only is there Greek pneuma, Latin spiritus, and Sanskrit prana, but there is Chinese chi, Egyptian ka, Germanic ond, Finnic henki, Tibetan lung, Algonquin manitou, West African asha and nyama, and Polynesian mana, to name only a few examples.
I got a life force!
A particular point of interest is that most of these words are similar or related to words used to describe air or breath. This is because pneuma has several properties that ancient people would have associated with air. It flows either gently or strongly like a fluid with no definitive or constant state, and just like air, pneuma is invisible on its own, but can be seen because of its secondary effects.
It surrounds us and penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together.
This vital force is just an attempt by savage, uneducated people to explain the workings of nature, the perpetually interrupting viewer rebuffs. Science has long since replaced the need for such beliefs. On the contrary, by Jove, all of modern physics appears to validate this philosophical theory. Solid matter is made of atoms, which are themselves made of quanta, electrons and protons, particles of energy. Time and space are one and the same, a unified continuum. Gravity, which warps space-time, is a property of mass, which energy particles possess.
Photons have mass? I didn't even know they were Catholic.
These are diversified expressions of a singularity which is not to be found in any one of them. The Anima Mundi is the underlying unity that serves as the foundation of the plurality of material energies.
This is 100% real. The energy level is just rising.
As Plotinus says, the spirit's nature and power will be brought out more clearly, more brilliantly, if we consider next how it envelops the heavenly system and guides all to its purposes. For it has bestowed itself upon all that huge expanse, so that every interval, small and great alike, has been animated. The material body is made up of parts, each holding its own place, some in mutual opposition and others variously separated. The spirit is in no such condition. It is not whittled down so that life tells of a part of the spirit and springs where some such separate portion impinges. Each separate life lives by the entire spirit, omnipresent in the likeness of the engendering Father, entire in unity and entire in diffused variety. This undifferentiated dynamism partakes of the universal principles within the nous and is arranged according to universal laws, an interplay which produces the universe we perceive with our senses. This is also the case in the Chinese philosophical system of Taoism, where the goddess Ho Tu, who personifies the dark, potent, passive, fertile yin energy, is described as one who imitates the law which sustains heaven. receiving the forms from the intellectual sphere and investing them in matter and energy. Here, the principle of yin is the passive, receptive, feminine power of potential vital energy, while the principle of yang is the active, masculine, actualizing impression, which corresponds to the discernment and intention associated with the nous, as discussed in the previous video. This must not be taken to be some kind of pantheism wherein the physical universe is taken to be some kind of spiritual thing and is considered the totality of existence. The physical universe is finite, had a beginning, and will come to an end. The Anima Mundi is infinite, subtle, and changeless. It is the foundation stone on which the physical universe is built, and is the source of the motive power that facilitates physical change. As the Roman Emperor Julian says, "Since our soul, anima, therefore contains, as it appears to Aristotle, the forms of things in capacity, where shall we first place these as subsisting in energy? Shall we establish them in material natures? But these are evidently the last of things. It remains, therefore, that we should explore immaterial causes, which subsist in energy prior to material natures, and from which, having a prior subsistence, our soul necessarily receives the reasons of forms, in the same manner as a mirror the images of things. But from hence she imparts them through nature to matter, and to these material bodies. For we are certain that nature is the artificer of bodies, as a whole of the universe, but as subsisting in individuals, of everything which has the relation of a part. She is the mistress of all life and the cause of all generation, who most easily confers perfection on her productions, and generates and fabricates things without passion in conjunction with the Father of the universe. Because the nous is prior to the Anima Mundi and is the source of its structure, pneuma is likewise subject to the direction of the logisticon. If this is the case, why do individual conscious beings lack control over the material world around them? This is an important question that I will answer in the next video because it relates to concepts not yet discussed. Suffice to say for now that as conditioned beings, the logistikoi of living creatures disassociate themselves from the nous, and instead invest their identity in matter, which is inferior to and subject to the Anima Mundi. But there are plenty of examples of interactions between pneuma and the human mind, reported in every culture and time period, from the most ancient texts of early civilizations all the way to the modern West. Of course, I'm referring to so-called parapsychological phenomena. "My proofs, the ironclad skeptic bellows. There is no evidence." Yes, there is.
You have a single fact to back that up?
Published, peer-reviewed scientific papers from universities and respected scientific institutions and government contractors. I talked about some such research in the previous video. If you can't be bothered to drag yourself over to Google and look at the papers yourselves, then you don't really care about the truth, you just want to stick your fingers in your ears and scream until everyone stops talking about subjects that make you feel uncomfortable. Yes, replicating parapsychological phenomena is often unreliable to the point that getting evidence for them using normal methods is usually difficult, especially when there are so many con artists and credulous hippies involved in the field. But this does not mean that there aren't repeatable, consistent, and measurable effects, although most are usually very small. Nor can this be explained by such things as the placebo effect, which itself, by the way, lacks a full biological explanation, but that's another matter entirely, because they have the same or even stronger effects on non-human subjects. A study directed by Joey P. Jones, professor of radiological sciences at the University of California, tested the effects of so-called pranic healers on cultures of human cells that were exposed to radiation. The survival rate rose from 50% to 90% over the course of 520 different experiments. Another study conducted across multiple laboratories at Queens College, St. Joseph's College, and Arizona State University observed the effects of similar practices on mice that had cancer.
Boss, please, I have a cancer, boss!
All of the mice were projected to die within 27 days, and all of the controlled group died within that time. But among the mice that were subject to the treatment, 87.9% of them went into remission and lived up to their normal lifespans. I will leave links to summaries of these studies in the description for anyone interested. According to Jessica Utz, professor of statistics at the University of California, If the same standards applied to every other field of science are applied to research into other so-called psi phenomena, then their reality is well established. Ray Hyman of the University of Oregon, famous for being a persistent skeptic of parapsychology, admitted that psi experiments conducted by the CIA and Stanford Research Institute were free from any methodological weaknesses and demonstrated effects that were too large and too consistent to possibly be considered statistical flukes. Now, I'm well aware of how appealing this sort of discourse is to New Age charlatans who want to sell special healing crystals and homeopathic remedies that run on positive vibes to female college students with severe parental issues. So let me be clear, those are just rocks and water. You can find them on the ground and in your plumbing. These New Age healers are even less qualified than I am, because at the very least I've actually read some traditional literature on metaphysics and thaumaturgy. Their only concern is making money, and they'll twist fringe theories and alternative paradigms to fit that purpose.
They used an advanced method called looking up anything she said and finding out it was made up completely.
What I'm trying to say is, don't believe anyone who tries to sell you stuff based on wishy-washy ideas about energy or prana or chakras or feng shui. Don't believe anyone who tells you that you can change reality just by believing hard enough, and definitely don't throw away real proven medicine in favour of literal hand-waving. So, we have now explored the three fundamental principles that constitute what Plotinus calls the intellectual sphere, as opposed to the material sphere of the senses. Likewise, the major schools of Hinduism consider these three to be the fundamental pillars of existence, and various other ancient philosophical traditions recognise them, either implicitly or explicitly. I will leave a link in the description to a video about the Hindu perspective on these principles and traditions that relate to them. After covering first principles, we will next explore the metaphysics of mankind and other beings beside, and hopefully come to dispense with certain stupid opinions concerning the nature and identity of the self. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.
Well, my job's done.